back
Recording in
here
progress.
this week. But as well as the guys that have been playing, that have been banged up, it gave them an opportunity to take some of the reps off their body, and as well as continue to get better and grow in the areas that we need to. We spent some time earlier on in the week focusing on the run game and really the techniques and fundamentals that can help us improve the run game as we head down the back stretch of the season here, and being able to simplify things so that we can come off and play with a better mentality and physicality.
And going to Colorado State, looking at their numbers defensively, they really seem to, holding people under 300 yards into 20 points a game. What do you see in their defense that has allowed them to be able to post those kind of numbers?
Yeah, so their front, their D-line, they're all graduates and or seniors, as well as their inside linebackers, and they got experience and they play physical line of scrimmage. They do a really good job, especially here late earlier on in the season. They had some guys that they were missing, but here in the past month, they're doing an unbelievable job at the line of scrimmage, not only stopping the run, but creating pressure on the quarterback as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Andy, you obviously worked on a lot of X's and O's type of stuff, and I might even be fishing for a question here because I'm not sure what your mind is, but how much did you work on mentality? How much did you work on attitude? How much did you work on, life between the ears during the bye week?
That's how the whole week started out, Mike. It's resetting the vision on what it looks like, what the work takes to become a consistent team, that teamwork, and establishing that mentality of what it looks like, from the very beginning of the week. And again, we had some of our most competitive practices that we've had in the past year consistently for a week. And we're continuing to build on that as we evaluate where we're at in terms of mentality, Mike, and obviously growing that. And we have to grow that. And the way we practice is everything. We can sit here and talk about the amount of reps we can get as a team in team run periods and those things, and it may not be where we want it to be, but there's other things that we can do, Mike, to create that mentality at practice as well. And we got to be very strategic about that, especially as we head down the stretch here to improve ourselves.
How do you, I guess, what did you find that was, I don't know if wrong is the right answer. Where did you want to improve the mentality, and what did you specifically kind of work on? How do you fix that? How do you work on that?
Well, I think number one, it starts with a purpose. Mentality always starts with a purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? How do we approach every single day? How competitive are we every day? And that starts with how we get here in the mornings. That mentality doesn't start on the field. It starts in the meetings and being prepared. If you're prepared in the meetings, and we do a great job as coaches, and we set that mentality through how we teach the fundamentals and technique, it provides confidence, Mike, and the confidence to play a certain way and use the tools that you've been taught will create the mentality. And that's how we've always built it here. And we've got to get back to reestablishing that. And really, it starts with us as coaches and how we teach and how we build the tools and the fundamentals.
Thank you, Andy.
Andy, in my nine years covering the team, I haven't heard a whole lot of talk about that kind of stuff, and whether it be the meetings and being late and that kind of stuff, whatever. How surprising has it been to you that you're having to, here in the middle of the season, week 8, be dealing with all this kind of stuff that's not the X's and O's?
In terms of, what are you talking about?
You've talked about having to reestablish the foundation, and you alluded last game to maybe guys being late to meetings and just other stuff, and what it takes during the week to get to game day, to get to where you want to be. That's just a lot of stuff I haven't frankly heard Coach Harsin or the last year of Coach Pete talk about it in the 9 years I've been here. It's been
a reestablish of the foundation since day number 1, since January, since we got here, reestablishing what it means to bleed blue, what it means to have the family first, the team first. And what does that family look like? A family it takes great teamwork to make a family, and reestablishing what that looks like every single day and creating a competitive environment where we have a certain purpose and competitiveness when we show up here every single day. And that's what we're working to reestablish. And again, it's been since January when we got here that we sat down with every single one of the players in the program and asked some things that need to change about the program. What has happened and what in the last couple of years that we've done well, and what are the things that we need to cut out, and what do we need to do better. And that's been a primary focus since January when we came in here and we sat down and we asked, what do we need to do a better job of?
What can you tell us about why C.T. Thomas is no longer on the team?
Well, we can say this, just like we released a statement, and we wish him nothing but the best going forward in his future. And as we do with everything else, BJ, what happens here stays here. And again, we wish him nothing but the best going forward.
Thank you.
And yeah, I know every game is important, especially every conference game. But when you look at this game, it's really a must win in terms of just bowl eligibility when you consider what's left on your schedule. Have you kind of gotten that message across to your players this week?
No, we're talking about just this week, just 1-0 mentality, winning each and every day, and building on this, what we did last week in terms of how we showed up here every single day to work with the competitive spirit that it's going to take, to be successful. And really, at the end of as we go down the backstretch here, it is really about each day, each week, and just focusing on that, not worrying about what's out in front of you.
And you talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but you said you're not worrying about the future. You're worrying about right now. But, assuming you guys do maybe lose another couple of games, is there a tipping point where you start throwing in some of those freshmen that you start getting them some playing time late in the season?
We're getting freshmen playing time right now. Whether – Ron, they're backups and they're ready to get in, or we do put them in. Like there are guys that are in the mix each and every week to provide depth, and honestly, guys that have developed behind the scenes that are doing a really good job on all levels of whether it be defense and or offense. There's certain offensive linemen that have done a really good job. Mason Randolph is a guy that has made tremendous strides as an offensive lineman and a young player. On the defensive side of the ball, there's guys on all levels of the defense, and not only in terms of defense, but special teams as well, and how these guys are adding to the depth on special teams and may get their shot to play here down the stretch if needed.
And I'm curious about one of those young guys, Herbert Gums. What stands out to you about him on the field and off the field mentality-wise?
Well, he's got a physical capability now. He's talented. He's explosive. Here in the last 3 weeks, we've been able to increase his rep load coming off of the injury that he had last year. And so we've really been able to increase the amount of reps that he's able to take in team periods consistently. And it's part of his progression back into play and getting him back into games and being able to play him more reps. And he is a talented young man that is explosive, but Ron, I mean, he hasn't played a lot in the last year, so it's going to take a little bit of experience and work to, and he'll keep growing.
How about his mentality and maturity level off the field?
You know what? He's a young man that's learning and growing. He's this is second year in the program, so is for any young guy, he's making strides and improvements and in terms of off the field and in the classroom and doing a good job of that stuff. And obviously, the more you get your house in order off the field, the more you can focus and have more consistency on the field.
Thank you.
Jay, Paul J, and Will. And then just a reminder, guys, we're doing 2 questions the first time through so we can get to everybody. Go ahead, Jay.
Andy, how we doing?
What's up, buddy?
Andy, we know that more than anything during the bye, you also needed to try to rest up and get a little healthy. I know that some of this stuff you can only go so far into, but were you guys able to get healthy during the bye week? Are you expecting anybody back? And when you look at a guy like Keikani Okola Holamalia Gonzalez, we're going into the 7th game, week 8.
Right.
We haven't seen him yet. Any update on him too?
No, we're hoping here in the middle of the season to see where he was at and further evaluate his situation. I think we should know here, in the next couple of weeks or so, within the next week, what that looks like. But we were, to answer your initial question, there were a ton of guys. I mean, obviously the bye week was huge for guys that have been out, the extended rest, and the guys that have been playing and, playing 7 games already this season, and for certain guys to get the work they needed, but also, not nearly the same amount of reps you would have in, a week when you're preparing for an opponent. So, again, it was extremely competitive last week, but at the same time, we were able to get some guys fresh.
Andy, I know that you kind of have already addressed this a little bit today. But as you talk about, reestablishing the foundation and what it means to be a Boise State football player, I know that you said that you've addressed it. Have you seen some of the results so far? And I know that it might be a work in progress, but have you seen those results? And are you encouraged by those results that you can get it fixed here and have a solid month of November?
Very encouraged, and by the players' response and the way they responded off the field last week to the way they competed, off the field and on the field, and the way they understand and the way they're bringing things forward too, now that we can even continue to move forward in terms of, increasing the competitiveness and of how we're preparing, again, both on and off the field. It is, last week was a big week. It was a huge week, and to be able to grow in certain areas that we must grow, to be more consistent with the things that we're talking about that are a part of that foundation. We took a huge step last week, and we started off, today was our first practice coming off a weekend where the guys had, a few days off, and they did a tremendous job out there today.
Thanks, Andy.
Coach, what does Colorado State bring defensively that has you concerned?
Their experience up front. Again, I mean, their D-line is full of grads and seniors, and their inside linebackers. Again, in the last month, those guys, they're back to, full strength with everyone being back in the lineup, and they've done a great job against the run game since those guys have been back. And not only that, but creating pressure on the quarterback. They have a fair amount of six-man pressures that we're going to have to be able to handle. And not only the six-man pressures, but even when they're rushing forward, being able to handle our one-on-ones and compete and be able to give the quarterbacks time to get through the progression.
A lot of teams script the first 15 or so plays of a ball game. With your slow starts in the second half, any thoughts, or do you already script the first 15 plays or so offensively in the second half?
Yes, there's strategy that goes into those things, and there's two different plans to put into play that are always prepared depending on how the first half goes. And that's something we talked about, obviously huge. I mean, that's been a deal, right? The consistency starting in the second half. And what does that look like? And to be honest with you, we got guys that really care. And sometimes, when we don't get started off quickly there in the second half, we just got to understand that we don't need to press. We need to stay the course. We need to focus on executing the plan. And that starts with us, obviously, as coaches, and committing ourselves to, this is a game that, as we've spoken about today, involves a lot of mentality and establishing the run game and being able to build from there and provide the confidence, in the operation of the quarterbacks to be able to move the sticks.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Andy, you look at Colorado State's offense. What stands out to you about their tight end, Trey Mcbride?
Well, he does it all. I mean, there's not a lot of tight ends that are inline tight ends that can come off the ball and establish an edge and set an edge in the run game and then line up at X wide receiver and be able to run the routes he does. I mean, he is, he's considered one of the best tight ends in the nation for a reason. And you put that along with his length and his size and his ability to run. I mean, you just don't see as many tight ends that can do it all like that. This day and age, you see a guy who is more of an H split out tight end or an inline blocker. He has, he's got the full package of being able to establish, again, the edge and all the different things they do with him in the pass game as well.
You look at their special teams numbers with their punting and field goal kicking. How important is winning that battle on Saturday? It
is always important. I mean, special teams and the ability to change the game or create field position it's been a big part of the games that we've been successful in. And so playing at altitude there, the ball's going to fly a little bit more. And they've done a tremendous job, especially with their punt team and being able to flip the field. And we understand that. And, obviously playing at altitude, like we talked about, is going to have that ball flying a little bit more. And there's certain areas of the game where you can take advantage of that.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay, we got time for follow-up. So BJ's got one, and then Jay.
Okay.
Andy, I know it's been 9 days, and we didn't really get a chance to talk to you last week. I just wanted to follow up on the fourth down where you had 10 guys on the field. I know you were frustrated, obviously, after the game, but now that you've had time to figure it out, and what can you say about, I guess, how what that happened, and if that should have been a receiver or a tight end or running back or what happened there? And I guess generally for you, big picture, 7 games in as head coach now, dealing with clock management, game management, that type of stuff. What's this learning process been like for you as you start your head coaching career here?
Well, number one, in your first question, it comes down to us doing a better job of communicating, as a coaching staff, and being able to communicate in that huddle and be clear and concise about the personnel that's going on the field. And we take ownership in that. It doesn't really, at this point, matter to put who was supposed to be on the field or who wasn't. The bottom line is it comes down to us, BJ, doing a better job. And like I said, after the game, when you asked, it's on us. It's on me. And I got to do a better job with that.
Am I good to go, Craig?
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Andy, through the bye week, obviously it's important because you guys can get out and recruit and do things like that. What else did you do in your bye week, other than have those few practices with your team last week? Did you get any family time, and how did the recruiting scene go, as much as you can say, obviously?
Yeah, no. Well, the recruiting was awesome. It was great to get out. There's a lot of young men that are excited to be a part of this program and have been around here enough on visits, unofficial or officially, to see, what we are establishing and building behind the scenes and the direction we're going. And there's a lot of young men that are going to be very impactful in coming in here. And so it was good to get out. It was the first time being out recruiting on the road in 2 years, almost 2 years. So that was a treat in itself to be able to do that. There was a lot of evaluations going on from, on all different levels throughout the course of last week, the beginning of the week, and applying that stuff through our practice week. And then, coming back off the road recruiting, most of us got back at some point, either, early morning Saturday or Saturday during the day. And to be able to see our families for a few hours was huge. And then right back to it on Sunday morning early and finishing the game plan and the prep for this week coming up, but also too, to be able to get out in front and make sure that we have the things organized and plotted out for the rest of this week.
2 years. That's crazy, Andy. Thank you.
Mike Prater, go ahead.
Andy, I know it's not a top priority for you right now, especially in the season, but I wanted to ask about name, image, and likeness and how Boise State as a football program deals with that. We're doing a show this week on it's a first-year thing, and the university could get better, student athletes could get better, Bronco Nation and the biz community can get better. Where do you want to see it get better? Because at the end of the day, I think it comes back to recruiting.
I think it's a matter of opportunities, Mike. As you're in that business, and that's part of what you do. And it's just there's opportunities everywhere, and creating an infrastructure to take advantage of those opportunities and educating not only the players, but making sure that we're all on the same page. A lot of the guys will get representation to help them with the name, image, and likeness. That's what's happened. I think within the community, people understanding in the community what they can do with the player's name, image, and likeness. There's a lot of people that don't understand that they can directly contact the student athletes to create name, image, and likeness deals. And whether that's food sponsorships, there's been talks of car sponsorships, supplement sponsorships. Obviously, it's all got to fall within the parameters of the NCAA. But there's different levels and different areas where guys have been able to establish some name, image, and likeness stuff. And I think that will continue to grow. Especially after this first year of working through the process and really understanding what do these opportunities look like, and as we grow our organization and helping the student athletes do so.
Local recruiting. It's a beautiful thing when you can go after the Tyler Crows and the Austin Bolts of the world. But what's your policy? What's your philosophy on local recruiting? Because sometimes if it doesn't go well, sometimes if they're not getting the playing time, sometimes if there are issues, everybody knows who these people are and they all want it to go well. What are the pros and cons of local recruiting?
The pros for us have always been establishing the mentality within the program with the local guys that have grown up around here and that have bled blue since they were kids. And, you're talking about Tyler Gurin, you're talking about guys like that have earned scholarships. And for us, there's only 11 guys on the field. If those guys had an impact, has Tyler Crow had an impact on special teams? Yes. Tyler has Bolt had an impact on special teams? Yeah. So in terms of it not going well, I'm not sure what you're alluding to there, but it has always been a priority to recruit this state first. I mean, we've had tremendous players come out of the Fruitland area. We've had tremendous players come from all over the state in the smallest towns. We've had them come from Riggins, Idaho. It's been a priority. And so we've had guys that have earned scholarships that have walked on here. We've had guys that we've recruited and put on scholarship. We've had guys that have come here and not earned a scholarship, but still had a huge impact and earned their degree. So, the current guys that are in our program from the state, they're doing a good job.
Andy, thank you.
Looks like Ron has one more. Go ahead.
Coach, in past years, Boise State's always had packages for its backup quarterbacks. This year, we've only seen Hank out there. Is that a product of his grasp of this scheme? Is that a personal preference of yours just to play one quarterback? What went into that?
In terms of not having packages for multiple quarterbacks?
Yes.
Now, there's always I think there's a consistency that, especially when we're building a run game, that there's, like we spoke about, there's a certain level of simplicity that we got to be able to keep so we can come off and play fast and physical. Where we go from that in terms of building multiple packages for quarterbacks to step in and play, you can see that as a couple different ways. We've had some wildcat situations to get Khalil Shakir back there and be able to handle the ball and do those things. So there's, I think that's partly so of what you're talking about too, is getting the ball in someone else's hands that can create an extra number in the run game. Is that what you're referring to?
Not really. I guess I should ask it more directly. Why isn't Jack Sears playing this year?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were asking. Let's just be upfront and honest. We don't have to beat around it. Like, you know what? Because Hank has been efficient. Are there things that Hank has to improve on? Yeah. Or should we take Hank out? Hank has done a good job being efficient with the ball. Do we have to eliminate some of the negative yardage plays? Yeah. And is part of that on Hank? There's no doubt. But not all of that is on Hank either. Part of that's on the wide receivers. Part of that's on the offensive line. It's a team game. And if we felt at any point where, Jack has made tremendous strides, especially in the bye week, Jack took a lot of reps. And Jack's ability to improve and be able to execute and get reps with a blue offense, with the first team offense, we got to see and be able to see that happen consistently. And Jack is improving that way. And
is that a detriment to a quarterback sometimes when another quarterback comes in for one or two plays in a game?
Well, I don't think any quarterback likes to rotate. I haven't met very many quarterbacks that like to rotate in and out like that. And that's what you create. We're trying to establish some consistency throughout it. And it's very hard on a quarterback. I think if you would ask them, I don't think there's very many quarterbacks that like to rotate.
Sure. Thanks, man.
It looks like Tom Scott joined us late. So, Tom, go ahead and ask a couple of Andy. Tom, can you hear us? I'll try to come back at this time. BJ, you said you had one more. So,
Andy, I just wondered if you could answer the second part of my question, just about being 7 games in as a head coach and just the learning curve for you too, in terms of self-evaluation and dealing with game management, clock management, all kinds of stuff that you maybe hadn't had to do before this year.
Yeah, there's no question. Every day is a learning experience, BJ. Every day is a learning experience that we enjoy. Like, that's the beautiful part about this game, is being able, as much as it is for the players to go out on the field, there's situations where we go on the field and it's play it periods. And we learn as well as coaches every single day on the field. And the evaluation always starts with myself and the coaches and where we go from there and the consistency within that. And so there's plenty of areas that we got to continue to improve. The mentality of this team starts and ends with me. The game operations and the communication in the game starts with me. And that's why I take responsibility to your question. And those areas of learning, there are certain things that we can control. And those little things, we've got to make sure that we do an unbelievable job organizing and practicing and preparing the things that we can control. Communication off the sideline. Being able to make sure that in those critical situations, we have full control of what we can control. Game management situations, there is debate on what we could have done, would have done, hindsights, all that stuff. Are there things that we have learned through the course of the year? Yeah, there's things that we've learned. Are there things that we would do different? Yeah. Are there things that have been questioned that we wouldn't do different? Most definitely. And so keeping perspective is everything. But having the willingness to learn every single day is a huge part of it.
Thank you.
Tom, looks like you might be there now.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Andy, I noticed that Davis Cutter is listed as the backup on the depth chart at the agency spots. What's the status of guys like Latrell Capel, Shea Whiting, one of the true freshman wide receivers, or should we just not read too much into the depth chart?
No, those guys, no, Shea Whiting and those guys, they have done a tremendous job. A few of those guys obviously have been banged up, Latrell being one of those guys. So he's coming along. We're really excited about the progress of Latrell has made. But we have 7 guys that we feel confident about easily. That's one of our deepest positions on the roster. And Davis can play either or position, and that's what he brings to the table, is having the knowledge to play inside or outside. And as we move through this week too, that will be solidified more so in terms of the competitions to see who deserves the right to be the next man in the game, because we have plenty of guys that are capable.
Okay, and special teams were very big in this game last year on the blue turf,
Yeah.
and they were very big for CSU last week at Utah State, obviously. Is this a normal week in special teams prep or an abnormal week?
I mean, special teams are always a huge priority. The games that we've done, we've been successful in, we've been able to have game-changing plays, and what that looks like is a lot of different things, whether it's field position, creating explosive plays, whether that's returns or stopping returns, stopping fakes. I mean, every week it's about finding a way to change the game on special teams.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, Coach. Thanks for the time. We'll see you later in the week. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you guys.
Recording stopped.
Tim, you got us all right?
Yeah. What's up, guys?
Okay. All right, guys. Just a reminder, we only have 15 minutes with Tim and Spencer. So 2 questions first round as well. Jay, BJ, Mike.
Recording in progress.
Go ahead, Jay.
What up, Tim?
Hey, Jay.
How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How did the bye week treat you and your staff? And we were talking with Andy. This is the first time in a long time that you guys have actually been able to get out on the road and recruit.
Yeah, for me, I think it was close to 800 days since I've been out recruiting on the road. So great to get back out there and develop relationships with these high school coaches and see some great talent and see some good games. So got to get myself a California burrito, which I've missed there for a while. So it was a good trip.
Tim, how did you use the bye week to assess what has happened, over the first 7 games of the season? And where do you want to see improvement? Where do you think your team can grow as you hit the home stretch of the season here?
Yeah, anytime you get in the bye week, you're going to go right back and self-scout and do exactly what you're talking about, Jay, and just, kind of deep dive into where some of the issues are for things that aren't going the way you want, and then look at the positive aspects of what we're doing and try to continue those and build upon them. So I think for us, it was really just being able to get down and look at the issues that we're dealing with right now and how we can solve them. And I always look at it like we got to solve one thing at a time, right? Get one thing solved, then move on to the next, and get another thing solved, and move on to the next, and hopefully solve enough things that, we can turn these L's into W's. So I thought the week was really good for our guys just to get healthy and for our staff to, be able to come together and look at, the areas we can improve on so that we can hopefully have some more success.
Tim, I don't know if you won't divulge too much, but what are the issues? And you're saying you're going one at a time. I mean, how do you look at what is going on with the offense right now?
I think it starts with the run game, obviously, and it's been a story all year, rightfully so. It's just trying to create some consistency there, and then just looking at the negative plays that keep popping up, whether it's a sack fumble here or a bad snap or dropped pass. We tend to have, these handful of plays that can be drive killers for us, and trying to identify why those take place and where we can eliminate those. And I think those 2 areas are probably the ones that we've looked at the most. Where can we improve in the run game? What can we do here the back stretch of the season to make sure we're being more consistent there? And then how can we eliminate these negative plays that tend to, kill the drives for us?
I know it's been 9 days. We didn't get a chance to talk to you after the Air Force game, but the 4th and 2 where you only had 10 players on the field, how, from your perspective, I guess, how does that happen? And I know you don't want to divulge too much, but it looked like Hank was looking back to the left, like the missing guy was supposed to be out there to the left. I don't know if you can say if that's true or not, but how tough was that, I guess, in that spot in the game to not have 11 players out there? Yeah,
obviously that's something I've never had happen before, and hopefully never happen again. Any confusion or issues with that play is 100% on me as the coordinator, and I take full responsibility for that, and no one else should. That's on me as the offense to be able to make sure we got all the guys out there. I think there was confusion we had initial play that we were going to run, and then during the timeout we had changed personnel groups, and we had everyone standing there so that they didn't know what personnel we were in, and somewhere within there was confusion on what we were doing. And that, like I said, is 100% on me as the coordinator to make sure things like that don't take place. We obviously have a number of play calls for that scenario, right? I mean, you could go into your 2-point play bag. You can go into your 4th down bag. So we had a handful of plays we really liked the play we had going in there, but obviously didn't do the detailed things of make sure we got 11 guys. And that was a big play in the game. And again, something that's never happened to me before and hopefully never happens again. And I'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, BJ.
Hey, Tim, you've mentioned the run game. Andy mentioned the run game. You've talked about consistency and negative plays, but specifically after a week now, what is wrong with the run game, and specifically, where did you try to fix it?
I think specifically in the run game, Mike, it's really in the regards to
making sure we're targeted correctly and avoiding the negative runs, because what happens is, if we get mistargeted or if they have an extra hat within the box, instead of having a gain of 2 or 3, we tend to have gains of -1 and -2. And so just looking back at the run schemes, trying to see if we can simplify that down, do a better job as coaches, detailing the fundamentals and techniques that will allow us to create more positive runs so that we can get in a situation where we're not falling behind the chains. So I think we've looked at, the number of run schemes we've run from a self-scout standpoint. Hey, what are the run schemes we've had success with? What are the ones that are leading to the negative plays? Let's try to work through why that's happening so our guys can be more consistent coming off and putting ourselves in a scenario where we can be, more positive with it. And I know that the numbers are not anywhere where we need them to be. But obviously we have shown the capability to do it against teams like BYU and Utah State. And so we just got to find that consistency, Mike, and making sure that we're not having the negative runs. And we just got to keep working on formations and schemes that will allow that to take place.
11 different starting positions. I think you've had multiple starters at 8 of them. And overall, I think you're looking at somewhere around 20 different players, maybe a little bit more than that starting period on the offense. I don't know if that's normal. It doesn't seem normal. And there's probably some good and some bad in there. How do you look at that?
Definitely not normal, Mike. And we've dealt with injuries in a way that I've definitely not had many years like this where we've had so many guys out. But like we've told you from the jump, like we cannot use that as an excuse. There's a lot of teams that have injuries, a lot of teams that are missing guys. We have faith in the guys that are out there, but I do think the negative is just the continuity of it, Mike, trying to get the right guys in the right spots all the time so that, there's some rhythm to what we're doing. And that has come up a couple times in games where you got a new guy out there doing something maybe he hasn't had enough reps at because we've had some injuries. And then, but the positive is we have got a lot of guys some playing time and guys have gotten better because of that. So our hope is that our best football is ahead of us here for this back stretch because we have had so many guys play, and they've all got the good reps that'll be beneficial for us here going forward.
Tim, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Let's go, Will, Paul J, Ron.
Hey, Tim, you look at Colorado State's defense, second in the country in sacks. What allows them to be so successful in getting after the quarterback?
That D-line is special, Will. We've gone against some great defenses so far this year with the Oklahoma States and the BYUs, and I think Nevada was up there with sacks. And these guys are as good or better. This is an elite group up front. I mean, these 4 guys are relentless, and they are a dangerous group. So I think it starts with those 4 guys. They're able to create pressure every play, and that's why they probably are that high in sacks.
When we talked with Andy just a couple of minutes ago, he mentioned how competitive practices were last week for you guys. What did you see out of your offensive players last week in practice?
I think, just like Andy was saying, we wanted to create an environment where some teams in the bye week look at it like, hey, we're going to rest or take the week off. And, we took it the exact opposite. Like, no, this is a great opportunity for us to compete with each other and get better. There's areas on all 3 phases that we're doing really well. And there's areas in all 3 phases where we've got to get better. And what better way to do that than to put the ball out there and let's put, best on best and see who can win that drill and, put something on it. And whoever loses the drill's got some type of consequence or something on it. And so create that environment where every day at practice, we're competing for something and hopefully create more situations like we're having in games where that competition can stay throughout a 4-quarter run instead of, offensively for us, we've really been playing really good first half football and then, really poor second half football. And so how can we create a scenario where we can keep that competitive line, all the way through 4 quarters? Well, let's see if we can keep it through an entire practice. And there were some great practices out there where offense would get a drill and the defense would get a drill and the offense would get a drill and the defense would get a drill. And there was a lot of juice at practice, a lot of fire. These guys still believe they can accomplish a lot of things with this season. They're going to push each other to do it. And it was a good week.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Will.
Coach, you talked a little bit about your time off identifying the problems and searching for ways to get them fixed. Are we going to see any changes without giving away anything? Are we going to see any changes, or are you just going to try to do what you've been doing better?
That's a great question, Paul. I think, just how I've been taught as a coach at a young age is if you try to change your identity and you try to get away from what you've built, you're going to run into more problems than what you started with. So to answer your question, it's more about looking at what we do and going back to the fundamentals and details within what we do to create more success. Because if we lack consistency as coaches and lack consistency in our message, that's not going to send the message that we want to our guys. What we want them to know is, we have belief in what we're doing. There's solutions to the issues that have popped up. Here's the solutions we're going to give you, and we're going to be able to improve off of that. And if anything, it's simplifying it back to doing the simple things that you need to do to be great on offense, defense, special teams. And in reality, those are the things that we're lacking, Paul. It's the details and doing the every play things in and out that are going to lead to a successful drive, and avoiding those 1 to 2 plays that can halt a drive. And how do we do that? We get back to work and we get detailed and get everybody on the same page, hopefully simplify it to where those mistakes, become less and less.
Again, without giving away the farm, any personnel changes without naming names?
We're definitely, when you got a week off, you can definitely work on some different looks and some different things to show a defense. So there will be some things that guys will see for sure that they haven't seen before, and that's part of the fun part of getting to the bye week. Gives you 2 weeks to, get in there and cook some stuff up. So we'll have some things cooked up for sure.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Paul.
Hey, Tim. Love the stash. For a second, I thought my dad jumped on the Zoom.
Hey, solid shred. Appreciate it.
So, Coach, historically here, Boise State has played multiple quarterbacks most years. I'm curious, why haven't we seen more of Jack Sears this year? And in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of playing multiple quarterbacks?
I think, in my opinion, I think Hank's, again, done really well. And I know that finishing the game with an interception, and there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks, I'm sure, on how things should be done. But, I don't know the full rankings or stats, but I'm pretty sure he's top 10 in passing in the country. I'm pretty sure he's completing 65% of his passes, and doing a lot of things really well out there. Now, are there things he can do better? Absolutely. We've had a couple miscues where maybe some misreads or things that lead to negative plays or turnovers that we can obviously correct. But Hank's playing at a really high level. There's things we can do to help him and things we can do to help the offense for sure run more smoothly. But I think he's done a lot of things really well here in the first half, and expect him to play even better the second half. Jack's a tremendous player that's ready to go. And I think the positives to having multiple guys is obviously teams have to prepare maybe for multiple quarterbacks and how they play, because they're always going to play differently. The negative is just, if you're mixing a guy in every other drive, it's really hard to get into a rhythm as a guy that played quarterback. If you're taking a guy out and taking a guy in and taking a guy out and taking a guy in, it's difficult unless you got a Taysom Hill type situation where the guy can play another position and then jump into quarterback every now and then. That's kind of in the flow of the game. So I know Jack's ready to play. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit like any backup quarterback would be to get an opportunity to go out and do his thing. And I know he'll be ready if that takes place, but have all the confidence in the world in Hank. Think he's playing really well. I think he's going to play even better here down the stretch. I think his mindset's in a really good place, and they support each other at a very high level, which is very impressive. Jack and him have a great relationship, and Jack had a great week of practice here in the bye week. We got him some more reps there with the Blues, and to give Hank a chance to rest his arm a little bit. And like I said, I think he's ready to roll if that number gets called. And nowadays, I think you get through any season with one quarterback, it's usually tough. So at some point, I would think he'd get in there and have a chance if things go in a way where we need to make a change. But Hank's playing really well right now. So unless something drastically were to go another way, I would see Hank continue to do his thing.
I know we talked about the air raid a couple of weeks ago, but given the struggles on the ground, and especially if you don't get Halani and Habibi Dikio back anytime soon, is there a tipping point where you go, wide receivers maybe the deepest position on our team, we just got to start chucking the ball around 50 times a game? Is there a tipping point coming?
I think that's always it's a reasonable question to ask. But again, I think when we first got here, Coach Avalos and I, we made it really clear on what we were trying to do is what made Boise State football successful in the past. And it was like any championship team, being able to establish a mentality and a consistent physicality within our offense. And the only way to do that is to run the football and establish that physicality up front. Now, are you going to run for 5, 6, 7 yards of carry every play? That's going to be maybe tough for a lot of teams to do, but what we can do is commit ourselves to developing that physicality up front and forcing teams to have to fit the run and have to make tackles. And that's going to take pressure off the offensive line from a pass protection standpoint and take pressure off the quarterback to have to, drop back 50, 60 times in a game and be accurate and go through his progressions, because that puts a lot on his plate too. So as an old quarterback, sure, let's go out there and friggin' chuck it around and do your thing. But I think for the long game of the program and what we're trying to accomplish here, for not just this season, but seasons in the future, is we've got to develop a physicality. And I have full confidence that we're going to be able to do that. And our guys really want to do that. And that's what championship teams have. They're physical up front and they stop the run and they run the ball really well. And so we got to figure out a way to do that on offense to help our team.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
All right, Tim. Appreciate the time. I'll let you get out of here. Thank you.
All right. Hey, guys, have a great week. Appreciate you.
Take care, man.
Recording stopped.
What's up, guys? Good afternoon.
All right, we're going to go same format, guys. Jay, BJ, Ron to start us off.
Recording in progress.
Go ahead. BJ, go ahead. Jay, jump back in a second.
Sorry, BJ. I know it was a tough weekend, man. Started out hot.
Hey, man, progress.
No question.
That fourth down call was correct, but oh well. What we heard during the bye week there was a lot of competitive practices and getting after guys. What from your perspective was that like, and why was that needed maybe for this team?
Yeah, it was just good to just like anything, come off a tough loss to Air Force. And, the biggest thing that we're trying to grow our guys, there's a lot of things, but one of the things is just that competitive mindset that no matter what, you compete with yourself first. And that does not start in the practice field. It starts with how you show up in the morning, what time you go to sleep, so you can show up to positively impact the environment, right? And then as you compete with yourself, it's how you're in the training room, you're in the meeting room, and then that will give you the confidence to be able to compete when you get to the practice field. And then if you do that consistently Monday through Friday, there's going to be a better product on the field on Saturday nights or whenever we play. So it was good to see our guys. We watch the film, we correct it, we learn and grow on some things that is what we wanted to do and some things that obviously were not what the plan was, and to see how we need to, nip those in the bud and get those things fixed and see them come out and compete the way they did was awesome to see. And I think we took a big step as a team.
Andy's told us a lot about just trying to reestablish the foundation and what it means to be a Bronco and, not being late for meetings and how you practice and watch film and all that stuff. And just talking about how that needed to improve, I guess. You've been here a couple of years now. What do you see from that perspective in terms of that dropping off, or what was that not emphasized under the previous staff more? What do you, as someone that's been a holdover here the last couple of years, why have you seen that be a big emphasis?
I think just like anything, BJ, it's always going to be something that you're going to need to emphasize and continue to work on, because at the end of the day, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And as we teach these young men, these 18 to 22, and even coaches on what it looks like to compete, what it looks like to live this life and this model we want, the discipline, toughness, living with respect, like those are the main things we talk about. It's something that you're just consistently hitting. And there'll be times when, a young man does it well, and then you got to bring him back in and he needs to grow in it because he made a mistake in that situation. So, we got really good kids that want to be great on and off the field. And to answer your question, BJ, it's just continually showing them that just because something doesn't go right wherever, on the field, in the classroom, you go right back to the things that you can control, which are how I show up in the morning to positively impact the environment. Am I doing everything I need to do? If I'm doing my 1/11th, then the rest of it's going to take care of itself. So I don't see this something in regards to, bad, good, drop off. It's something though that we are always going to be on our guys with, because it shows up. If you have a team that is very disciplined and handles their business on and off the field, and all 105 are involved in this, you're going to be a good team, and you're going to be a team that can, figure out a way to not make the mistakes that we've made on all sides of the ball. And it's been cool to see our guys growing, especially with some guys having to step into roles, BJ, that, going into the season, they probably thought they might not play a lot. And now they are, seeing them like, this is what it takes to get yourself prepared for when you are the guy. So it's been cool to see our guys growing that. We obviously got a long way to go.
Thanks, man. Rock chalk.
Thanks, BJ.
Hey, Spence.
What's up, Jay?
Spence, your defense, we have seen them be really, really good at times this year, and we've seen them struggle a little bit at times this year. You look at Air Force, you look at Oklahoma State, and those first halves were a little troublesome, and then the second half, both of them were about as much as you probably could hope for against those two offenses. So I know kind of the $1 million question, but how can you get that out of your guys from the jump for a full game?
Well, and you're 100% right, Jay. And that's something that as a coaching staff, last week we used the whole time to self-scout. So you're looking at the schematics, you're looking at the fundamentals and techniques, you're looking at how we install. We're really, and Coach Avalos does a good job. We're pulling everything back. Like, what are ways, first and foremost, us coaches, me included, can be better to help our guys. And a big part of that is, the first half. And for us, it's the more you look at it, there's a mental error here, a mistake here, a missed assignment here that leads to scores, that leads to us not playing well in the first half. And our guys, we need to clean that up. And it starts from, coaching staff simplifying it to where when they get in the game that they can do that from series 1. It doesn't need to take till series 4 or 5 for them to lock in, because it really is. And to your point, Jay, we talked to our defense and our team exactly the same way me and you were talking right here is, you can see us operating in character the way we want to in a lot of these situations, then you can see very clearly us not. And it's not like there's same players are on the field, same offensive plays are usually coming against the same defensive calls. It's just our guys are operating and doing what they need to do. We just need to start faster, and we need to simplify it for our guys and make sure the looks in practice mirror exactly what they're going to see in the game, so that it's not something we have to adjust to and learn to get in rhythm in the game. They can start in rhythm. They can start fast to where we don't need to, get hit in the mouth a little bit before we figure it out.
I know this is a tough one for you to single anybody out, but who is a guy that, even more so than just providing numbers for you, is a guy that you've been able to kind of lean on your defense, and the guy that you point to during this time where you guys are trying to, reestablish the foundation and say, that's how it's done?
No, it's a great question, Jay. And you're 100% right. It's going to be impossible for me to single out one just because, my heart for these players. So you know me too well, but a couple guys that have just been awesome and holding the standard and continue to pull guys with them and understand that, we're going to love you, but there's a way we're going to do this. And there's only one way we're going to do it. And we're going to do it together, and getting everybody in line. And first and foremost, obviously, Kekala Canillo has been huge with it, setting the standard and how he operates. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's continuing to be that leader for us. Riley Wimpy is another one in regards to, hey, we're all in this thing together, but there's a way of doing this. And we're not even just talking about the practice of the game field. It's how you prep, how you're in the training room, how you go to class. Like, there is a way that you need to operate to be a part of this football program. This is what it looks like. And one that's really stepped up over the past really couple months, Jays, is Tyreek Jones. And Tyreek Jones has really taken a step in his leadership capabilities. The team looks up to him. He's obviously a really good football player for us, has some room to grow, but it's been cool just to see him take steps in his leadership ability and how vocal he is in the field when, a player on the field maybe doesn't do something he needs to do, from pursuit, tackling, or, just a schematic error. And Ty Jones will be one of the first ones to make sure he knows, like, hey, this is the standard. This is what you need to do. We need to get this fixed. And when it comes from a player, it's obviously even way more important than coming from a coach. It's that peer-to-peer interaction, player-led teams and an elite team. And it's cool to see these guys step into those roles. So I apologize I couldn't single out one, but I'd say those would be the three that I've really, leaned on a lot, and our coaching staff has been able to lean on to continue to pull guys in the right direction. Obviously, Scott Matlock, Dimitri, Shane, I can go on. These guys are continuing to do the same thing, but those guys have really showed up.
Spencer, thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Spencer, as you look at Colorado State's running game, what stands out about them on film?
Yeah, they do a great job. Obviously they got some really good personnel. They've got really good tight ends. Their tailbacks are very smart downhill runners. And, my hat's off to their offensive scheme, their offensive coordinator, their head coach, because they, very similar to other schemes, they put you in conflict with the different sets they give you, the different long edges. They use tight ends in multiple ways. They use different fly motions or alignments and shifts to try and get you away from playing with great eye control and seeing what your keys are telling you. And so up front, they also got a good O-line. So it complements each other. Then off of these run schemes, they have these gap schemes, these zone schemes. They have the play actions and the boots that complement them. So if you're overplaying one, they've got the play action to complement it. They got the boot off of the exact same run action to complement it. So it's just teaching our guys and showing them, how to play with great fundamentals and technique, which starts with eye control, seeing my keys and what are my keys telling me. But they do a great job in regards to how their offense complements each other from the run game and the pass game.
And I know you played a big role in recruiting Herbert Gums. What was it about him that convinced you he was going to be such a good fit here?
Yeah, when I went down to see him in Diboll, Texas, have you guys ever been to Diboll, Texas?
I've been near, but nowhere, not there.
I obviously had to Google it just to figure out where it was. It's about, hour and a half, 2 hours out of Houston. And, watching his film, when he was a sophomore, he was a 265-pound running back and was just very intrigued with how athletic this young man is. He's got a tough upbringing. Hurricane Katrina was tough on his family, had to move around. Not going to get into a lot of that, but he had just been through a lot, and being able to get to know him, get to know his coaches, and seeing him still be consistent in the classroom, still be a guy that shows up with a smile on his face. I mean, when you guys talk to Herb, he's not going to say much, but he's yes, sir, no, sir. He does what he's supposed to do. He has a good attitude. And so those things really jumped out about me. And then going and seeing him and just getting to know him on a deeper level was just understanding that this would be a good fit for him. And obviously his athletic ability and how explosive he is, how strong he is. Obviously my heart breaks that he had the injury last year, but just seeing him be able to slowly come out of that and get to where he's healthy. I really believe the sky's the limit for him if he continues to grow and develop the way he has. And Coach Kagi and his staff has done a great job with Herb because, I mean, he is a very explosive athlete that just needs to continue to grow in his fundamentals and technique, but he's going to be a really good player in the long run for us.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ron.
Go Mike and Will.
Hey, Spencer, you touched on some of this stuff, but just generically, somewhat at the halfway point of the season, what's been the best part of this defense for you, and what's been the most troubling part of this defense for you?
I'd say the best part, obviously, for me is always, we got great kids, and they have a relentless mindset to continue to stay in the fight, and that's something that I'm very proud of them. We've given up plays to get us in the red zone, and we've had stands. We've given up points in the first half, and they stay in the fight and put together good second halves. I'm really proud of our guys staying in the fight, staying relentless to attack and finish the game for 4 quarters. I'd say that's one of a couple things that I'm really proud of these guys with. Obviously, the thing that I really and it falls on me and just growing this is just the discipline to do your job every single play is something that we just need to continue to grow in. And it could be from the run game, pass game, from D-line to linebackers to secondary. And it goes from us coaches simplifying it for them to where they know exactly what they're supposed to do on every play. So then they can use their athletic ability and their work ethic to make these plays. But that's going to be the biggest thing for us going forward is just to make sure I'm disciplined enough to do my job every snap. If it's first down, second down, third down, if it's in the first quarter, in the fourth quarter. And if we could take a big step there, I'm excited for where our guys can go.
You guys have 16 sacks, which isn't a terrible number. You probably want a little bit more, but that's not a bad number. 11 of those, though, are from Scott and from Isaiah. Typically, when it comes to sacks, do you want them to come more spread out like that, or do you like just 2 monster guys creating havoc in there?
Man, as many as we can get, we'll take them, Mike. But, yeah, I mean, obviously you're – depending on who your team is in a certain year, you're going to get more from some than others. Our defense is built to where, we're bringing pressure from a lot of different areas. And so it's open for a lot of different guys. Obviously our stud and our D tackle are going to be rushing more than other positions. So they're going to have more opportunities to get sacks, but it's not something for me where, I want these certain guys to get sacks or these calls are based on, something to where these guys should. It's really depends on who wins their one-on-one and where the protection's going to. And it's been big for those guys to make those plays when they need to. And we need to continue to get more because the more sacks you get, they kill drives. And it's something that we need to continue to create because it gets you off the field. And that's something that if it's first down, second down, third down, fourth down, we need to find a way to get to that quarterback in sacks or QB pressures. And that's how we're going to complement the back end. So long answer to your question, Mike. For me, it obviously doesn't matter who it is. Our defense isn't built to have a certain position get more sacks, but it is awesome to see those 2 guys step into those roles and get that production.
Spencer, appreciate the time.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Spence, Trey McBride leads all tight ends throughout the country in catches and yards. You pop on the film. What stands out to you about him?
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time. We played against Trey McBride for a lot of years. He is, an elite tight end, obviously an NFL caliber tight end, and he does a great job in the run game, physical blocker, low pad level, gets his hands inside, and he's a matchup issue in regards to the pass game because he's a big dude, can run, can track the ball very well in the air, can make the contested catch, and has the speed and athletic ability to get open. If it's on a linebacker, if it's on a safety, even a corner, he has that type of athletic ability to where he can be a matchup issue for you. But if you put depending who he's on, he's also going to be a guy that can be very physical in the run game. So you got to be very smart in regards to who's on him, who's covering him, because he can make you miss in the pass game, but he's also very physical in the run game. So I really believe he's the full package. And like I said, he's an NFL caliber kid, and it's been cool to see him take those steps, and he's having a hell of a year.
Both Tim and Andy mentioned how competitive practices were last week. What did you see out of your defensive unit in practice last week?
Yeah, they were flying around, having fun, competing. And that's something that was exciting to see. You know, at the end of the day, we play a game, and it takes a lot to get to the practice field. It takes a lot of work, prep from the players to the coaches to get to the practice field, and obviously even way more to get to the game field. And if you do that the right way, then when you get to the practice field, you can have that fun energy, that relentless competitor to go out there and have fun. It was awesome to see our guys compete. You know, O versus D on special teams. Coach Avalos even did some different, competitions. Could be pushing a sled, could be, punting a football from a D lineman, just different ways to have our guys, hey, no matter what it is, we're going to compete in everything we do. And seeing our guys do that, have fun, have success, fail, learn from it, and get back up and compete the next rep, because that's what it is in football and that's what it is in life. And seeing our guys just do that and have fun doing it was awesome. Seeing we just need to keep it going forward.
Thanks, Spence.
Thanks, Will.
All right, Spence, we'll let you get out of here. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your week. See you guys.
Recording stopped.
Sorry.
What's up?
An active shooter at the Boise Mall. So if anyone knows anyone.
Oh, shit.
It's all over the social media. Boise Town Square Mall, active shooter.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Don't go to the mall.
On a much less serious note, for all the pronunciation police out there, is it Colorado or Colorado?
It's Nevada.
Is it Nevada?
Yeah.
I didn't know Colorado was a thing. I think it's just Colorado.
Before I got here, I didn't know Nevada was a thing.
Just say CSU and you'll be fine all week, man.
Missouri is always one too. So
all right. Files are coming your way, guys. Appreciate it.